ASUS new Chromebit strives to squeeze the power of the internet into a single, relatively cheap HDMI dongle. Basic tasks like email, web browsing and word processing is essential, and the Chromebit is pretty good at handle 1080p video streams too. Still, the sometimes frustrating setup process and inability to accommodate serious multitasking mean it won't be for everybody. Keep your expectations in check, buy it to be your kid's first computer, a terminal for Airbnb guests or a way to breathe life into an extra monitor. If you're looking for anything more than that, you'd best look elsewhere. Remember the already very cheap Chromebook Flip? You could think of the Chromebit as a headless version of that. There's a quad-core Rockchip RK3288C chipset inside, along with 2GB of RAM, an integrated Mali T760 GPU and 16GB of internal storage for all the things you won't actually download. That sounds glib, but the only things I wound up storing on my Chromebit were a few screenshots. Here's the rub: this isn't exactly the Chromebit we saw earlier this year. Well, I mean it mostly is, but the model I've been testing lacks the swiveling design we first saw back in March. Instead, what we have here is a Snickers bar-sized dongle with a matte black finish with a pinhole for a proprietary charger with an often too short 5-foot cord instead. Yep, that unfortunately means the micro USB power port featured on the prototype has gotten the axe. Now we're left with the $85 question: how well does this thing actually work? After all, the Chromebit is a neat exercise in gadget economics, a precarious balancing act of price and performance. Thankfully, aside from those initial setup headaches, the Chromebit's slow-end silicon keeps up better than you'd think. Firing up tabs and paging through endless Wikipedia articles is sort of Chrome's specialty, so straight web browsing won't be an issue. And Chrome OS has matured dramatically since its early days. I spent a few hours sifting through a Murakami novel in Amazon's Kindle web app, and followed it up with rearranging appointments in Sunrise, a Microsoft service. I also spent time managing assignments in Trello and making god-awful music with Audio Sauna. The Chromebit's power and value isn't actually tied to the gadget itself, but more to the experiences it enables, and indeed, there's plenty you can do. Of course, it helps if you're doing all these things sequentially and not in parallel. This very modest hardware means you can't just use Chrome all willy-nilly like you would on a conventional desktop. Consider my normal work setup. I'll usually have Netflix playing something in the background while I'm pecking out a story in Google Docs or triaging messages in Slack. For the most part, the Chromebit kept up with my workflow, but it'd sometimes lock up and make the television it was connected to reacquire the signal. I could always tell when this was coming, too. The Chromebit would stop accepting inputs from the keyboard or mouse. I'm not sure if this is Netflix's fault or ASUS's, but whatever, you'll have to be judicious in how you use this thing. Ultimately, Chrome OS's limitations actually work to the Chromebit's advantage. Remember Intel's Compute Stick? Its 1.3 GHz Atom processor, 2 GB of RAM and 32 GB of storage put that pocket PC in the same general territory as the Chromebit, but it struggled when we tried to use the thing as anything more than a basic productivity tool. If the Compute Stick was a disappointment, it was because it offered a sense of promise and potential that it just wasn't equipped to deliver. Not so with the humble Chromebit. It's not perfect, but it underpromises while managing to overdeliver. If all you want is to fire off occasional emails, watch YouTube videos and peck out memoirs in Google Docs, you'll be pleased with the Chromebit's capabilities. It's all vaguely reminiscent of Web TV, that failed Microsoft endeavor to bring the internet to television sets normal people already own, except there's an elegance here that should make the Chromebit even more alluring to people with modest net needs. Hell, I'm thinking of buying a couple for my parents so I don't need to endure a weekly catch-up calls about how confusing they find Windows 10. Wrap up. There's something intriguing about the Chromebit. It's not terribly fast, nor is it always elegant in its execution. Then again, it's a perfectly serviceable way to access your email, music and nearly everything the web has to offer, mostly using gear you probably already have. Chrome OS has matured over the years, and it's never been more accessible. Still, you have to approach it with the right expectations. It's not the most capable streamer. And like most other Chrome OS machines, the Chromebit won't replace a desktop or laptop with heavier-duty hardware and a more fully featured OS. That said, while I haven't been a Chrome OS user for long, the fact that I can handle much of my daily routine on a candy bar-sized hunk of plastic is kind of exciting. power users should probably stay away, but there's just enough functionality here for students and tinkerers alike to walk away satisfied.